First of all, whose self-interest do you mean? Do you mean your immediate self-interest in the next second? So that would be impulsive pleasure. We're all acting for the gaining of impulsive pleasure, and to hell with everything else. Well, obviously that's a stupid way to behave, and everyone knows that, because you can do impulsive, short-term gratifying things like snort cocaine now, and you can keep doing that, and it'll pay off real well in the extremely short term, and it'll just auger you into the ground in the medium to long term. So if you're acting in your own self-interest, let's take that apart. Over what period of time? Your self-interest in the next second? Your self-interest in the next hour? Like if you're impulsive and you want to gratify an impulse, you're obviously acting in your self-interest in the next second, or the next 2 seconds, or the next minute. But you'll pay for that. Maybe you punch someone or you slap someone because you're so angry, and they knock you for a loop, and then they charge you with assault. So, well, it was great in your self-interest in the second, but like future, remember that Simpsons episode? Homer drank a quart of mayonnaise and vodka, and Marge and all his kids were telling him not to, and he said, well, that's a problem for future Homer. I sure don't envy that guy. It's like, which is one of the best Simpsons lines ever, I think. And well, that's it exactly. It's like, well, there isn't just you. There's now you, and there's tonight you, and there's tomorrow morning you. That's the one that'll have the hangover, by the way. And there's next week you, and next month you, and next year you, and old you. And so if you're going to act in your self-interest, you have to take that collective of yous across time into account when you make your decision. And now here's the cool thing about that. So then let's say, well, that would be acting in your self-interest writ large, right, across time spans. But the thing is, future you and someone else that you have to live with right now that's not you are pretty much the same people. And so if you're going to act in your self-interest and you have other people around you, then you also want to act in their self-interest, because otherwise they won't like you. They won't cooperate with you, and they won't compete with you in a reasonable manner. And so that's going to be a catastrophe. And so you want to act out what's good for you now and what's good for you next month and next year. And you want to do that in a way that's good for you and your family and your community right now, next week, and next year. And you're going to take all those things into account at the same time. That's an equilibrated game from a Piagetian perspective. And it was his idea that constituted the basis for proper moral judgment. And it's a brilliant idea. It's a brilliant idea. And so that's your true self-interest. There's no difference between your interest and the interest of others, not in any fundamental sense. Even your enemies, which is why you're enjoined to treat your enemy as if he was yourself, because he is. And you think, well, you should wish your enemies well. Well, why? Well, it isn't that you hope they get a bigger house than you. It's that, let's say you're being pursued and tormented by someone who's truly reprehensible. That person they have a miserable life, man, in all likelihood. Let's say they're truly malevolent. They live in hell. And what you might hope for them is that they could figure out how to get out of there, because it's not good for them and it's not good for anyone else. Think, well, even your enemies, it's like, wouldn't it be good if they could get their act together and stop being so unnecessarily malevolent? And that's in your self-interest. So the idea that your self-interest is somehow opposed to other people's, or that if you maximize your self-interest, you're not operating in the best interests of other people, is predicated on a poor idea of what constitutes your self-interest, because you're not separate in any real sense from other people. You're maybe not separate from everything in some real sense,